I want to use technology to create a world in which that sense of surprise, discovery, sense of wonder, that you go somewhere that it means something to you. That's where we can use the tools to genuinely create something which feels much more meaningful than what we currently have.
That is Matthew Drinkwater, head of the Fashion Innovation Agency at London College of Fashion. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Create Tomorrow podcast. I'm your host, Cassandra Napoli, head of marketing, events, and culture forecasting at WGSN. Every 2 weeks, I will take you on a journey to examine how brands and consumers are creating tomorrow, whether through product innovations, actions and strategies, or online behaviors. In this episode, we'll hear from Matthew Drinkwater, head of the Fashion Innovation Agency at the London College of Fashion, who will discuss the convergence of technology and fashion within the realms of education, creativity, and commerce. Matthew, thank you for being here. Can you please tell us who you are, what you do, and a bit about your career journey so far?
Sure, I'm Matthew Drinkwater, head of the Fashion Innovation Agency here at London College of Fashion. I set up the team about 13 years ago now and have, I guess, a really amazing remit from the college to explore any emerging technology and its impact on the fashion and retail industries. So the team and I just build proof of concept with technology, try and accelerate the pace of adoption in industry, and then bring all of that knowledge back into the university and hopefully send out another generation of creatives with a much better understanding of emerging technologies and how to apply them in whatever field of work they're going into.
Could you tell us a little bit about the types of projects and work that you do at the agency?
We've done so much work over the last 13 years that we span an enormous amount of what emerging technologies has added up to over that time period. So, everything from wearable technology to immersive technologies, so augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality, through to digital fashion, what metaverse became, and obviously artificial intelligence dominates a huge amount of our work these days. Our mission is to try and be a North Star for the industry to demonstrate what technology is capable of, what that might mean for the industry, and ultimately where roles and creatives are going to be placed in organizations in the future and what skill sets they'll need.
When you said sort of cutting edge emerging technologies, you've been in the business for about 13 years. Is there anything that was emerging back in the day that has now sort of become our commonplace or quite ordinary in our fashion experiences?
Yeah, there has. And it's so interesting because we operate in a very unusual way. Like we're within a university, we're like an industry facing unit. So we're testing technologies which are new to market. And what we don't try to do at the university is bake that technology at that early stage into the curriculum, because that process is quite a lengthy one. It can take sort of 18 months, 2 years to begin to look at how you integrate new technologies into the curriculum. And by the point that you've done that, many of those technologies have faded away and disappeared. But if I think back to when I first joined the university, 3D printing was one of those that was at that very exciting early formative stage. And we were doing a lot of testing in 3D printing. And, if I fast forward to today, we have a huge fab lab up on our 8th floor where students are prototyping on a daily basis. We have a huge array of 3D printing tools for them to utilize. And across multiple courses, I guess especially in accessories and artifact courses, it's something which is just commonplace. And so we have this ability to begin to test with the technology, see where it might add value. And if there is something which looks like it will become commonplace, that is then rolled out into the organization.
So a lot of the work that you do really is at the academic level, right? You're kind of experimenting with these technologies, seeing if they're to be embedded into the curriculum, helping students kind of prepare for a future where digital technologies are more commonplace. Are you ever working with brands? Like, where do brands have a part to play here in this equation?
A lot of our work is with industry, in industry. And so that we've almost become like this bridge between the fashion industry where skill sets are missing. If you go to most typical fashion businesses, and we do a lot of work with the luxury fashion industry, There are some businesses that have creative innovation and creative technologists within that, but a large majority don't. And also for the technology industry, which I think over the years has had an increasing interest in the fashion industry, but perhaps a lack of understanding of where the opportunity might exist within fashion. So yes, both on a fashion industry side where we like to be able to either consult on digital change or transformation or begin to actually work and collaborate alongside those businesses. And we've done a lot of work with Burberry over the years. And, we did a project a few years ago with them looking at digitizing and representing what their digital garments could look like within Unreal Engine and Epic Games. And both for the technology side as well, I think it's where might what they're developing have a place? And I think back to the early days of mixed reality, where the likes of Microsoft and HoloLens and Magic Leap, with the Magic Leap One, would come to us and say, "Look, we're developing this. What would be the application for this piece of hardware within the fashion industry?" So I think 2016 we did a fashion show with Martine Yargard, a young emerging designer in London. And I think we had the biggest number of HoloLens headsets in the world at any one time. We'd scanned a model and you could interact with this hologram in real time. My goodness, 9 years ago.
In the fashion tech world, that's probably like 200 years ago.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah.
So I want to talk about digital fashion from a sort of broad macro level, right? There's lots of varied estimates across the value of the market. I have seen one that's about 50 billion by 2030. Can you tell us how you define digital fashion and the sort of purpose this serves in an industry, right? So I think if you think back to like the metaverse era where everyone was obsessed with talking about the metaverse, the so-called metaverse, and digital fashion really had a part to play there. A lot of brands began experimenting. There was in-game skins that were branded, really like this has always been going on, but this was sort of branded for the first time. Is this what digital fashion is? Is it something different? Is it a range of things? What is it to you?
So I guess gaming is one element of digital fashion, but I think my definition would be the digitization of fashion creation. And, this is sometimes called as DPC or digital product creation. There are many tools that exist today that allow us to prototype and to visualize in a very different way, in a way which doesn't require physical material. And there are some obvious sustainability gains in doing that. And I think for us, it's been to demonstrate and showcase all of those elements. So, probably back in 2016, we were placing interns into factories in Barcelona, working for a big fast fashion company, helping to showcase the potential of using 3D design within their processes and beginning to move things at that very grassroots level with suppliers and industry. And I think when I look back to those early days, it was how do we avoid the uncanny valley in digital fashion? Because I think getting buyers and individuals within fashion brands to accept a digital prototype as being on par or comparable to a physical prototype is something that, I mean, even to this day, there's still significant pushback. And you look at almost the imperceptibility that we can create in some of those digital garments these days. I think, as much of that is about a mindset change. So digital fashion for us, yes, gaming is one part of it. And those estimates of where revenue is generated, I think can only be pushed through gaming. Yes, gaming is a rich opportunity for fashion and has been well in advance of 2020. I think I can remember many presentations in the years ahead of that talking about the value of the gaming industry and where skins exist. There is a part to play for fashion within the gaming industry, but I think kind of that association with digital fashion became very commonplace during the pandemic.
I want to talk about this sort of tension between craft and digital craft, because I think oftentimes we hear about the preservation of traditional craft, making things with our hands. The idea here at WGSN, we talk so much about how in a world where everything is AI and AI is ordinary eventually, the idea that making things with our hands is so special. It's almost the new luxury, right? But I think that there is also a case for digital craft. Can you talk a little bit about that tension between traditional handmade craft, but also digital craft?
It is really fascinating when you see a new technology coming along and the disquiet that it creates amongst creatives. I did a tour of the building this morning for some guests, and we went through kind of the first 5 floors of the building, and all of it is sewing machines, every kind of traditional element that you would expect to see from a fashion school. And actually, we're here in a new building. So we're in Stratford in East London. We're part of East Bank, which is this £1.1 billion regeneration zone in East London that followed the 2012 Olympics. And this magnificent new building, one of the first design questions we were asked before we moved into the building was, look, London College of Fashion has been around for 100 years. This building needs to be here for another 100 years. What does fashion education look like 100 years from now? And I think it throws up those questions around what are the new tools that are available to us? But it is quite frankly impossible to imagine 100 years into the future, but your only reference point is what did things look like 100 years ago? And actually, we have a lot of photographs of what London College of Fashion looked like 100 years ago. And if I did a side by side of what the first 4 or 5 floors of this building look like, they look kind of the same. The ways in which we make, the traditional craft that we teach. Yes, there are lots of new tools around us, and of course my everyday is obsessed with digital creation. Is it in any way looking to replace or likely to replace that traditional craft? Absolutely not. And we as an institution and those students that come through that door, yes, there are many that have an interest in digital product creation, but it will be grounded in understanding the basics of how to create in a more traditional way. That is where digital comes together to enable you to do those things. This is like the crux of what natural language processing looks like. To be able to describe things in a way which is natural to a large language model, you need to understand the basics of what you're asking it to do. If you don't understand the terminology or what that means, you won't be able to get the most out of the technology that is available to you.
I love that. That's such a good soundbite. I want to switch gears a little bit. I think the question on my mind is always, has the metaverse materialized, right? We heard all of this in 2020 to 2023-ish. It kind of fell off after that. Seemed like every investment firm was really throwing money at anything metaverse or Web3 oriented. It's still around. It's still kind of a buzzword, but it's definitely dissipated a little bit. What's your take? And if it hasn't materialized, will it? And where does technology and fashion and the convergence of the two have a part to play here?
I think the definitions of what the metaverse was and what people understood it to be were never really defined in a way which made sense. A lot of that just referred to gaming. And I think from our perspective, what that metaverse looked like was a digital layer to the physical world and was kind of grounded a little bit more in augmented and mixed reality. Um, and I think, no, that vision hasn't come to fruition. It doesn't exist, and it didn't exist in 2020. Or like these ideas of we're in the metaverse was you're in a video game. And again, I think it's that mismatch of expectation versus reality. Those things will come to fruition. I think there is likely to be a digital layer to the physical world. I think I remember saying at the time that every physical product would have a digital identity. And here we are in 2025 talking about the digital product passport. Every physical product is going to have a digital identity. That might not have been kind of the ultimate vision of what people were talking about in early 2020, but it is the reality of a much more practical use case of the technology, of where it's going to deliver and what, ultimately to a consumer facing, how that might provide benefit and how regulatory for the fashion industry these things need to be in place. I think where we as a society need to figure out is what is an acceptable layer for us. Like, none of us wants that dystopian vision of the future where everywhere we look is the kind of hyper reality vision that was showcased a few years ago. I think what that might mean for fashion and retail is a different way of engaging both in physical stores and also how we interact with each other and see garments across multiple layers and multiple elements of reality. Those things are going to be possible in the future.
Obviously, the internet, we've talked a little bit about this already, but the internet significantly transformed the fashion experience from design, the trend cycle, to the way we consume and dispose of fashion. I tend to ask a lot of my guests this question because I think it's really fascinating to sort of unpack the tension between the internet being good versus evil, which is a heavily debated topic, right? Do you think the internet has improved fashion despite all of the harm it's done? Or do you think the internet has been a bad influence on the fashion industry? Or is it a mixture of the both?
If you look at the advent of the internet, made it possible for any of us to publish anything. Whether or not that's good or not, I don't know. And now we have tools available to us which allow anybody to create anything. And if my social media feed is anything to go by, I have seen enough Sora 2 videos to last me a lifetime. Just the ability to give people something that allows them to create does not make the world creative. And I guess it's, in answer to the question, it's, yeah, we will all be given tools which allow us to operate and work in a different way to how we did before. But ultimately, does the role of creative change? No, it doesn't. We still need people who have the ability to understand taste, to be able to lead, to create the sense of what fashion has become over the years and will be in the future. I think all of the tools are, for us that work genuinely within the creative industry are incredibly exciting. The ability to reach audiences that we never could before is incredibly exciting, has built careers for people that didn't exist before. All of that will evolve and change over time. Um, I think one thing that globalization has done through the internet has perhaps made the world a little bit less interesting if you can see everything and everything becomes the same. And I think for fashion retail, that is one thing that has become incredibly boring. Wherever I go in the world, every store looks the same. Every layout is the same. Every product is the same. I want to use technology to create a world in which that sense of surprise, discovery, sense of wonder, that you go somewhere that it means something to you. That's where we can use the tools to genuinely create something which feels much more meaningful than what we currently have.
We talk so much about there being a boredom crisis in the world in a post-pandemic era, right? And I think in fashion and beauty, because we're sort of given our For You pages all look the same, right? We're told what to like and what to engage with constantly, and the more we do it, the more we're going to see it. And so it is sort of a homogeny across the board. I think is quite dangerous, and I don't know. I think it actually does create less creativity as a result.
100% it does. Like whenever you see any of the new AI tools being launched, let's go back to when Studio Ghibli became that big trend. Everybody does the same thing. 99% of what you'll see on the internet is what somebody else has done. That is not where creativity exists. And is also why I don't worry about the advent of those tools, because true creatives won't do what everybody else is doing. That's that's why places like this exist. Why, like, there is a small pool of people that will lead the way and will show us something that looks different and isn't what we've seen before. That's what we champion, and we want to support and create and help create the conditions for people to think about what they're seeing and not just do what everyone else has done.
I want to ask about AI. So, do you foresee AI as a sort of administrative solution, freeing the human up for more creative potential? Or do you see AI as the creative output where humans can actually leverage it to be more creative? Or is it a little bit of both?
It will definitely be a bit of both, because it's too big not to be a bit of both. Like I think on an administration level, like even here within amongst the team, you can see where it will make a massive difference to our everyday, those tasks which we might have had to outsource, you can immediately get a response to. All of our planning becomes so much easier through utilizing those tools. As a creative, um, I go back to, our very early projects. I had some friends at MIT who were doing some work with NVIDIA's StyleGAN, and they said to me, right, let's do some fashion work. And we started using the generative adversarial networks to generate dresses. So it was like scraping 40,000 images of dresses to create new ones. And I remember like the finished product, and they looked great. We had this beautiful video which showed the interpolation between the dresses, and they were morphing into another, and all of it computer generated. And I showed it to some students, and they kind of looked blank faced at me and said, "Yeah, I know how to design a dress." And that kind of pang of, ouch, ouch, what did you just say? And as we were showing the video, there were a kind of few elements where there were some imperfections in the creations, and they went, no, 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 stop, go back. Show me that. That realization that, that that use of generative AI as an endpoint is not what it's for. It's your starting point of, look, I have an idea. I can bring that idea to visualization so much more quickly. And then you use a bunch of other tools to begin to build on that idea and to take it to a different place. Every amazing project that you see online, all of the incredible videos that do exist, that are genuinely artistic and feel like they move the needle, are hours and hours of work of humans making decisions frame by frame about what might work.
I have to ask also about the AI model phenomenon, right? We've seen, if you think back to 2016, we were introduced to Lil Miquela. If you look at her now as a in 2025 with a trained eye, knowing that AI exists, you know that she doesn't exist, right? You know that that's synthetic. But at the time, it did fool a lot of people. Is this a real person? It was the first kind of example of the uncanny valley in terms of people that we had really seen. Um, in a world where, H&M is digitizing models and creating digital doubles, and there's a lot of brands out there that are getting in trouble, or magazines out there that are getting in trouble for using generative AI in ads. What do you make of the AI model phenomenon? Is this here to stay? Is it gimmick, or is it a larger sort of problem within the industry?
I mean, of course it's here to stay. And I think, obviously there's petitions at the moment from big modeling groups beginning to question unauthorized use, of which they absolutely should do. But is any industry immune to technology? No, it absolutely isn't. That technology is here, and our ability to generate photorealistic humans that we can then animate and place anywhere in the world exists and is only going to get better. So I think it's really a question of how do we begin to utilize that technology in a way which it feels like it's enhancing models' current existence. The opportunity to digitize models to allow them to work across different campaigns, to be inserted at certain points. They may have shot one campaign, or a brand might want to make an alteration to that campaign. Can they do that really quickly now? Are new business models going to need to surface because of this technology? Absolutely they are. And I know there's pushback, and I know that there is controversy around this, but it is coming. And I feel like it will be an opportunity for the modeling industry to look at how it currently operates and begin to find new ways, because it has to. Like every other industry will have to adapt to what's around it.
Like always, I ask all of my guests, who is someone or a business that they admire that is creating a new version of tomorrow that they find deeply inspiring? I imagine some people might have said the Fashion Innovation Agency as their answer, but what is your take? I'm very curious.
Well, if I'm not allowed to say the Fashion Innovation Agency, I will say University of the Arts London, because look, I sit in a space which kind of genuinely the future of the industry sits and will be going out into the workplace, making a difference. And we see the tools that they're using, the projects they're making, the types of materials they're using their mindset is in that space. So I remember a quote from our former Chancellor, Grayson Perry, describing UAL as the world's biggest factory for trouble. And yes, universities should be that place that just create a little bit of discomfort. We're going to be the ones that ask the questions. We have that space to prototype, and whether it's my team creating the new examples of with the very latest technology, or some students coming through working with industry, these are the spaces that I think will be really critically important for how industry adapts to the changes around technology and society at large.
Thank you to my guest, Matthew Drinkwater, head of the Fashion Innovation Agency at the London College of Fashion. If you're a WGSN subscriber, look out for more trends at WGSN.com. If you're not a subscriber, please come and discover our services. We'll be back with our next episode soon. In the meantime, you can catch the CEO of WGSN, Carla Buzasci, next week on our other podcast, Lives of Tomorrow. I'm your host, Cassandra Napoli. Be sure to follow and subscribe to this podcast, and see you next time.